Cineverm. Hello, welcome to Cineverm, a podcast discussing films in and out of the cinema. My name is Anthony Renteria, and with me today is Helen Albee Cottingham. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome. So this week on episode 58, we are discussing the film Memoria, written and directed by, and I apologize for everyone listening, Ep.60.
Yeah, let me take a crack at that one. Architapong. Just say it really fast. It'll sound like you're smart and you know what you're saying. Rastikal.
Werastical.
He's a rastical.
Yes.
He's a rastical.
We'll call them AW for short. And here's the synopsis of the movie if you don't know what it's about. So, it follows a woman from Scotland while traveling in Colombia. Begins to notice strange sounds. Soon she begins to think about about their appearance. As always, we will begin with a spoiler-free review, and then we will give ample warning and go into a full spoiler discussion after our rating. Okay, so I guess
I have to rate it. Oh no.
Yeah. I just realized, I don't know really how to talk about this movie without spoiling it, because there's really...
Yeah, the way I've heard it described by other people is Tilda Swinton listens to sounds. And you can describe it as just a woman in a city that she obviously doesn't belong in, experiencing things that make very little sense to her, and sound is everything. It's the key to the whole movie.
Yeah.
And you don't really have to... that's all you really need to know, is there's something ethereal and wrong about this world and about this person and about the situation she's in, and you don't understand it, and she also doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
And...
So, I guess one thing that I was, struggling... that is a perfect synopsis. That's better than the actual synopsis, if I say so myself. But, one thing I was thinking about watching it is, how... what genre of movie is this? Because I feel like I didn't really know what to, go into, and, I heard everyone say it's, super slow and, super chill. But, I don't think this is a spoiler, but, the first scene takes 8 minutes before there's a single cut, and, the first 7 minutes is literally just it's just a photograph, which is beautiful, which I actually, found myself... I don't know if you experienced this. Well, wait, let me finish my other thought. But, is there, a genre that you're familiar with that, is this slow... it's not even slow cinema. This is, beyond that.
Yeah, I would just say experimental film.
Okay.
That's maybe a bold statement, and maybe I don't know really the definition of experimental film. But I heard once that Tilda Swinton, in an interview, said she's only ever in experimental films. She will only take a role if there's something strange or experimental or unusual about the project.
Yeah.
And so this was a Tilda Swinton movie. That's the genre. That's the way I feel about it. And it was, I guess, a drama, and it was very indie, if that's a genre.
Yeah. Because for me, I found it very art house, and then it, broke that barrier. Because, art house for me is, very... cuts don't happen when they're supposed to. You know, you feel all right, now we're going to cut, and then it doesn't happen. And this movie did that all the time.
The drawn-out, uncomfortable tension.
I was wanting a cut, and I'm God, just, let me see something else, or, let these people move, or,
You know what I did at those parts is I just closed my eyes.
Really?
Yeah, I just listened, because the soundscape of the movie was the most important part, and I was I don't need to look at this anymore. I've looked at everything in this shot, and I just shut my eyes until the light, because you can see through your eyelids that the light changed, and then I opened my eyes.
Wow. So you had an awesome experience.
What, you didn't?
Well, no, I had a great experience, but that sounds like the best way to watch this movie. Because what I was doing, I would, see the frame, listen to the sounds, process everything I could, and then there was still, another 4 minutes of, I think I've processed everything, and then I would just, I would start from, the top left, and just start rescanning the frame. And I just kept doing that over and over again. Or if there was something interesting, there's some scenes with animals, there was
Yeah.
like a dog, and I was like, that is the coolest dog ever. I'm just gonna stare at the dog.
Yeah, or birds would fly across.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird that we just watched a movie, which is a visual medium, that you don't really have to look at.
Yeah.
You don't, yeah, you can, it's really the audio. And is that why they won't release it anywhere but in the theater? Is because you have to have a theater sound system
Yeah.
to appreciate it?
I feel like that has to be the reason. Like, I
'Cause
haven't.
that's the other big thing about this movie.
Yeah. This movie would sound like ass on my computer monitor.
Yeah.
Like-
But they still are holding to that they will never release it on streaming, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
insist that it will only ever be in theaters.
Yeah.
It's the only way any person can ever see it.
Yeah. So that makes it so strange, because I think it's like a great movie that I would like to rewatch. But like, I guess now I can't, because their whole thing is like, it's only in one theater at
At a
one
time.
time as it's like
no,
rolling
I'm
out.
now crushed because there was a scene where I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to watch this 50 more times to process it, and now I'm just hitting me that I can't.
Yeah.
I'm so sad now. Oh man.
Yeah, so I don't like that kind of rollout. Like, maybe after a year they'll like drop it somewhere else, because I think if I had like really quality headphones or like a surround system, then you could kind of imitate it.
Yeah.
But the theater does give you that like weird focus. Like, it almost felt like meditating during certain parts.
Yeah. I was almost annoyed by it. You know how like when an image is too sharp and too perfect and too HD, it's kind of ugly? I feel like the sound in this was almost too vivid. Like when she's out on the street and all the cars and the birds chirping, and I was like, I could just go outside the theater and sit on the curb right now and hear these exact same sounds. Like,
Yeah.
what is special about this? Like, ooh, yes, it's completely realistic. It takes you there. But where are we? We're on a corner of a street,
Yeah.
and that's not especially special. And it was kind of like watching a super HD football game. Like, my eyes are tired, my ears are tired. But that's not really a very reasonable complaint. In other scenes, the sound was so vivid and so perfect and delicious for my brain.
See, that's like something interesting that I wanted to note on, was like, it gave me like Roma vibes. Have you seen that movie?
No.
Okay, so like Roma doesn't have a score, and it just uses like sound effects to like highlight moments. And I remember like I think it was like Alfonso Cuarón is the director. And like, he took like months doing the sound design with like a sound designer, because they didn't actually use any on-set sounds. But like, when you're watching it, you're like, oh, they just recorded the sounds from that street. And I'm starting to think this film was exactly the same. Like, I might be wrong, but I'm thinking there's no way they just use actual ambient noise, because like you're saying, like, it almost sounded too perfect. Like, like you could like notate like this branch moving, and then like a perfect wind gust, and then like creaking. Like, it
Yeah.
was almost too, like, there's no way. But I don't know. But then there was also like imperfections, like where in a performance, like Tilda would like swallow.
Yeah, and you could hear
Yeah,
it.
and you could tell like she wasn't wanting to make a weird noise with her mouth or throat.
Yeah.
And then it totally came out.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they use like a mix of like on-set audio recordings, or if it was all manipulated.
I can't tell.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
But I was gonna ask you, what do you think? Like, we kind of talked about the visuals, but like, what did you think about the cinematography and like how it looked?
I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was weird to me how almost all the shots with people were really backed up. The people were small little figures in the center of the screen with all this landscape or cityscape or other people around them. And there was a lot of excruciating, like, me empathizing with the extras in the scene moments where I was just like watching the guy reading the book and imagining being that guy and
Yeah.
being like, the camera is on me for like, what, 10 minutes and a super famous actress is right there
Yeah.
and I have to be chill and read this book. And like that scene again where this isn't a spoiler, where they're like watching a band play music. And it's just these extras or these randos' faces. It's like, look like you're watching music right now. Do it. Go. 1, 2, 3. Just stand and look like you're enjoying music. Now hold that, standing next to Tilda Swinton. Like, oh, I was empathizing with them so hard. I was completely in their minds and bodies, those scenes. And there's a lot of cinematography like that, where like backed up Tilda's not even really the focus. She's just one of the people, but she's so tall and strange looking that you can't help but see her.
Yeah.
Like, even on the street, she's walking in a huge crowd, but you can immediately see her. And maybe that's partly a effect of it being set in Colombia.
Yeah.
That she stood out so much.
Yeah.
And that really helped. These backed up shots. It's like you can still find your main character because she's so distinctive.
Yeah. But I do like, yeah, it did feel like a very conscious choice to, like, hide her within a crowd. So it didn't even really feel like the movie was about her. It was just like we happened to be following her.
Yeah.
Like, the camera is just like this documentary-esque spirit just capturing her life or her moments or whatever.
Or these rooms that she happens to be in.
Yeah.
It was so dispassionate.
Yeah, like very cold and like anti-emotional. You know, like it never gave into what she was feeling. Like in any other film, like if she had a crying scene, you know, it would punch in. But instead, like, if it does happen in the movie, like it's always off frame or like her face is not in a clearly visible like manner,
or she's far away. Like I felt so far away from everything this movie. Like,
I loved it. It made me feel like I was actually in like this cityscape or these jungles or like nature or like the weird sets and locations. I guess, what did you think about that? Because it was like constantly, it was like almost like every frame was basically a painting, but then it was like such distinctive locations.
Not even a painting, but a Nat Geo, like a National Geographic
like
photograph.
A photograph.
That's what it felt like. I mean, it did make me feel a little bit like I was there, but also I would be closer. It felt like a framed, conscious setup photograph.
Yeah.
Every time.
So it didn't feel like a personal photograph. It felt like how you're saying, like a Nat Geo
like,
kind of thing.
Here we are capturing the culture and the life of this city.
I love that. I think that was like my favorite part. And then obviously it's shot on film. So like seeing the grain, like that was something I just like stared at for like 5 minutes while I was bored, was just like little grain specks like dancing around. And then like the rolling shutter of the film, like as it's processing through the camera and stuff. So
I don't notice any of those things, but I'm glad that was...
It's awesome. Like I think the last like couple movies I watched have been all digital, and like one was very beautiful from like one of my favorite working cinematographers, and then I saw that like 2 nights ago, and then seeing this I'm like, God, like why does anyone shoot on digital? Like it's so stark, like when you see them back to back. Like I don't understand how anyone's like, digital looks great. Like it's just, I don't know. But I guess it's hard to shoot on film and it's expensive, but there's no way this movie costs like $50 million, and they managed to do it in Colombia, probably in like 100-degree weather.
Yeah.
With random extras and having to organize all these giant locations. But yeah. So I guess, was there any other like non-spoiler things you would want to bring up to anyone who's curious about the movie?
Give it a chance, but be prepared to, if you're impatient, to be real frustrated. But I love a slow movie. I love a movie that lets me decide for myself what's going on and imply what I feel like I want to imply. And I think that every movie is different for every person that sees it, but I think this one especially, everybody's going to see a different movie. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I think if you're into poetry, you would get this movie like pretty quickly. Like if you're into like very slow, kind of very thoughtful poetry that makes no sense, but then you make it make sense, like as you're processing it. That's what it kind of felt like for me. Like at first I was very against it. And then like an hour in, I started like, oh, this image means this. And it was all like how you're saying, like my own perception, almost of myself. Like I was like implying myself in these situations. And
I was definitely doing the same thing. Yeah.
And then it was like, well, we'll get into that in the spoilers, but there is an element of this film that I wasn't expecting that I really loved. And that really made, because like, I was thinking like the narrative was the weak point. I was like, oh, this is cool, but like, what's the point of this story? Like, what's the like message or metaphor or meaning? And then I think we did end up getting a little sliver of that. That was enough for me to like kind of enjoy the whole piece. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
But so what would you rate this movie out of 10?
I mean, I just gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd.
Okay, so that's an 8.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's an 8.
Awesome. That's a pretty good rating. I think I would give it an 8 out of 10 too. Well, yeah.
I mean, it was very slow.
Yeah.
Even for me, who loves a slow movie, it was very slow.
Yeah.
So maybe a 7.
Yeah. Okay. See, like I'm trying to like find a way to push it to a 9 because it's like so different. Like it's so brave and it's like one of those I don't give a fuck kind of movies.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I forgot I think it was like Drive My Car, where like I'm gonna show you the fucking intro in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
45 minutes in the movie.
Yeah.
This movie felt like that. Like it's just, and this is what you get.
I do what I want.
Yeah. So I appreciate that, but I do think like I would have cut like at least a minute from every scene. Like I don't know, it was just like there was 4 minutes of every scene, like literally, that felt like too much for me. But I still appreciate the like
the artistry.
Yeah, the attempt and the like, the creativity. Like it just feels like a purely experimental thing. And like I learned things that I want to use in my films. And I think there's like something like really cool about this movie that I think if you could digest it into a smaller, more watchable movie, that it would be like a 10 out of 10. Like, because there's some ideas in here that I think like get my brain spinning. Like, there's moments.
There were moments where I was freaking out for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like, damn. Like some of this works. It's just I wonder if you could manipulate it to where like, you know, maybe the beginning of the movie is like a fast-paced normal movie, and then it just shuts down into this weird 20-minute cuts, you know, kind of thing or something. But yeah, so I'll give it a 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Then you're down to a 7.
No, maybe I'm back up to like a 7.5. It's so difficult because, it's the whole argument, the endless painful push and pull between accessibility and artistry and like, can you have both? And where's the line? And what's the perfect balance? And it doesn't strike that perfect balance. But why it would ruin it to make it more accessible. It wouldn't be as interesting.
Yeah.
But then no one's ever gonna really love this.
Yeah. See, my idea is like you make something as enjoyable as you can and then you push it. And it's like, you know, the middle ground is here. You're like 3 steps over. And like to me that's the perfect sweet spot. Where this is the extreme, this is the
5
center.
5 or 6 steps, this movie.
Yeah, this movie was like, you know, everyone says like this is slow cinema, and like this is like that cranked up to like 15.
Yeah, this is somebody just broke the knob off.
Yeah,
on that. Yeah, just
like someone fell asleep while editing this movie, and then they woke up and they're like, "Oh crap, just cut it there."
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But anyways, that's going to conclude our review portion of Memoria. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause the podcast now, and while you do that, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or comment on what you thought about the film or our takes on it. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or email us at cineverm@yahoo.com. And also be sure to check out our snazzy website, cineverm.com, where we also have written reviews. And speaking of reviews, you can check out my personal YouTube channel, A Lonely Critic, where I do weekly film reviews. And then also check out Movies for Decades, where Helen and her brothers, Colin and John, discuss great films through the decades. But now, let's get into the spoilers. I guess, do you prefer like spoiling a movie chronologically, or do you...
No, okay. I like to just jump around and talk about whatever. This is a debate actually we have on our podcast every time. My podcast, Movies for Decades, where we want to start from the beginning and go through the whole movie, but we always end up just being like, whoa, but dude, that one part that, whoops, it happened at the end, but we're talking about it now. And let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about this thing.
Yes, okay, so we got to begin with the thing that really like... it blew my mind. And like I felt like something weird was gonna happen as soon as we were introduced to this character who like remembers Rock.
The fish guy?
Yeah.
That was the scene where I was like, I need to watch this 50 more times. Yeah. I need to watch this dialogue and this conversation, and I need to process this forever. I need to watch this over and over again. Yeah. And I can't, because I'd have to go to the theater and pay $8 or whatever to watch this.
But you have really good memory, so I was gonna ask you, that guy's name, was his name the same as the other music
Yes.
producer guy?
Yes, I think, and she maybe imagined him, or he maybe wasn't real, or he was this guy.
Oh, like a
Again.
previous memory of his youth?
Or, yeah, or he exists in her mind and it was a different version of him, or he was just another of these ethereal beings. But yeah, because they didn't know who he was when she went to the studio. Let's see, let's unpack this. Okay, so she's hearing a weird sound that sounds like a thump.
Yeah. That's why I was like, I was waiting for her to make the sound over and over, because that's what I would do. I'd be like, doop.
I would be
No,
like,
wait. Doop.
I'd be trying so hard. Everybody would be, I would be institutionalized immediately. Yeah, she's hearing a weird sound, and she continues to have weirder and weirder experiences as she's going around her life hearing the weird sound. And so there's this guy who seems like an ordinary guy named Hernan, who is just seems like an audio engineer that she's referred to by her brother-in-law, who's works at this university, and he just helps her make the sound. And it's just a nice little interaction, but very overlong and very tense and weird. And then, inexplicably, they're best friends now. And he's immediately, and he's sharing his music with her, and then they're shopping for a refrigerator for some reason.
Yeah, for orchids.
And yeah, the orchid angle made no sense to me.
See, that's the thing that, like, that's the kind of narrative stuff that I'm like, just pluck these, like, kind of meaningless things, and then just give us, you know, the crux of that interest point, which to me was the alien thing, or the sound, or, like, I would have rather had more, like, there was that moment where she was, like, in the middle of I don't know what streets are called in Spanish, but there's, like, the little municipal kind of areas in between buildings, like courts or something.
Yeah, courtyards or whatever.
Yeah, courtyard. And she was, like, in a courtyard, and she was just walking around. No plot or anything, but, you know, we hear that dunk sound or whatever. It scares everyone. And, like, I would have rather had another moment like that for her than the whole orchid thing.
Yeah.
But I guess
she had to have a job and a reason for being there, which I was fully down and ready to just accept that she's just there because her sister's sick. She didn't have to have a reason to be in Colombia other than that to me, but apparently her reason for being there was she's an orchid farmer. Whatever, okay.
So that was her job? She farms orchids?
That's what the synopsis said on Letterboxd.
Oh,
I had no idea. The movie did not tell us that.
Yeah, that's what I was like, wait. I thought she was an archaeologist, and then she was like, I'm not an archaeologist. And I was like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
How do you make money? How are you alive?
But she's not.
Oh, you think she's like a being?
Yes, but that's we're getting ahead of ourselves. So anyway, so this Hernan guy, you're watching the movie and you're like, okay, I don't understand this woman. I don't understand what her role is. I'm trying to piece it together. She's friends with this very nice, very young man who seems weirdly enchanted by her, and he's offering to pay for her orchid refrigerator.
It's like $5 million.
Yeah, and then she goes and asks about him with all these other music bros in the music department at the university, and they're all kind of laughing at her, like, haha, check out this crazy white lady, like, she's asking for some guy that doesn't exist, and she's real unsettled by that. And I'm like, okay, is this movie going to be about schizophrenia? Like, is this, she's slowly hallucinating more and more things? At that point in the movie, that's where I was. I was like, okay, so this is the degrading of her mental state. She's slowly going insane. Her condition is slowly worsening. And this is the moment where she finds out this man she's been hanging out with isn't real. Because I guess I've seen Beautiful Mind too many times.
Oh,
but
I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's very good. Well, some people hate it. Whatever. I was going there with it, though.
Yeah.
And so then when she's randomly in this country town, which I didn't really follow why she was there, she leaves the city and goes to the jungle. Supposedly because orchids, but they never explain that.
See an orchid in the movie.
No, you don't. There's one in the middle of the table at the hospital cafe.
Oh, yeah.
But she has nothing to... Wait, no, none of the other tables had one. I thought it was just decoration at the cafe, but I guess it was hers.
Oh, we did get that scene where she's flipping through that book and there's some orchid pictures.
Yeah, and they've got all like dry rot and it's
Yeah,
bacterial
bacteria.
infections and funguses, and she's looking at all the diseases that orchids can get, which is weird and
So
creepy.
she
Yeah.
probably has like anxiety about her orchids dying all the time. And
Yeah.
she's like, God.
Yeah, she goes to the library and reads about orchid diseases.
And then
she had a
that's-
huge stack of books too.
Yeah.
But
that must be when she was like, I need to get a refrigerator.
yeah,
to
so they
prevent
don't
all this
decay.
fungus, yeah.
Yeah, we're puzzling it together after the fact. Watching the movie, these feel like just random images just being slapped against your brain, and you're just like, I accept you, whatever you are, strange movie.
And very slowly.
Yeah.
Very slow slaps. Like
Yeah.
you see the slap for 5 minutes and then
It hits you. And you still don't know what it meant or why you just got slapped. But you definitely stared at orchid fungus for 3 solid minutes.
Yeah.
So he's not real, or nobody knows who he is. And then she's suddenly in a country town. And she's hearing the sound a lot, and she then sees a man cleaning fish, and his name is also Hernan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's it. That's him. And I was like, okay, so this guy's not real either. This guy's a figment of her imagination also.
Yeah.
As soon as he said his name, that was my theory about him. Mm-hmm. But then he started saying all this stuff about we were together in space, and then I was born. And she's like, I don't remember being born. And he's like, oh, I remember it. And, you know.
Oh, so he was saying he was with her in space.
Yeah, he's saying we. He said we.
Oh.
You and I. And people like us, this and that and this and that. You know, he was immediately connecting with her and kind of speaking to her in a way that he assumed she was on his same plane, and she was understanding, but she wasn't at first, but she gradually, as time went on, started to pick up and understand more and more and more, and suddenly she's in his house. The transitions are very strange in this movie.
Yeah. We never see like actual movement into a location. We just cut into a room and then they're already there.
You're desperately craving a cut, any cut, off of Tilda Swinton's face, as distinctive and amazing as her face is. You're waiting, and then you cut and it's somewhere completely disorienting.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, I wanted a cut, but why to here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, leading into that, since we're talking about the end here, so do you, because now that you like explained all that kind of stuff, the we in space and we're born or whatever, so, because we never see her again after she's like leaning out the window listening, and then that's when we cut into the jungle and see awesomeness, but we never see her again after that, and there's still like 20 minutes of the film. Like, we see Hernan, and he's like all like
he's having, that's
twitching.
the most movement any character has in the entire movie, is him just spazzing.
So I'm wondering, what do you think happened to her? Like, the director must have had a reason to not show her again.
No, I mean, she's probably just still looking out the window.
She was still like...
she's twitching in front of the window. I mean, yeah.
I just now connected, like, what if she was like a lost alien creature and like she was forgotten there or something, and then that's...
Yeah, that's just so funny, because at the beginning of the movie, when I first walked in, I was late to the movie. And the first scene where she's walking down the street in the huge crowd, and I was like, Tilda Swinton is an alien. She is just not a normal person. Like, her body just doesn't move like a person's body. Like, she is just the oddest human being. I love her, but she is so strange.
Yeah.
And I think, maybe I was supposed to think that chick's an alien because she is. That was the reveal at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But my gosh, so my brain is just bursting with possibilities of what this movie means. Mm-hmm. So your theory is what?
Well, I just imagined, because we didn't see her, we see the ship fly away. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe the director's tying those two. Like, she hears the thing, walks out to the jungle, enters the ship, leaves.
No, I interpreted that as a memory.
Oh.
She's finally connecting because she connected with another one of her kind. Mm-hmm. Finally, like, touched his skin and got the full information. The full memory of being on the ship. Which it sounded like a ship at sea, but I think it was really a ship in space.
Oh.
She got the full memory, and then suddenly the sound wasn't a mystery to her anymore.
Yeah.
That was the sound of it going into warp or whatever, the warp drive.
Oh my god, so and what a perfect. I was like, oh, like that's cinema. Like that is peak.
Like I was terrified that you were mad at
No.
that part because I was like, "Oh no, it's just aliens! How disappointing!"
I was about to like touch you and be like, "Dude," like it just happened,
Yeah.
and then like seeing the effect of it go, boom, and then it leaves this like huge flat circle thing, and how it dissipates into like
it dissipates
a
at the
ring.
same time that the ship disappears over the horizon. Perfectly.
Yeah, so beautiful.
So wait, let's redefine this movie again. So she's a strange person. She's a stranger in a strange land.
Mm-hmm.
And she's having weird hallucinations. And then she meets a man who is stranger than she is and has an intensely beautiful conversation with him about all kinds of things that I cannot unpack right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then she realizes she's an alien, is what it seems to say. Because there's a ship that rises up out of the jungle and kadunks away.
Yeah. Was there any, like, so if your interpretation was that was a memory, do you remember? Because I think everything...
It's like that's how she got there. That's how they all got there. And they've been reincarnating over and over again.
Oh, yeah. So, if in that frame, you don't remember seeing any, like, modern, like, light poles or anything? It was just all jungle,
It was all
right?
jungle. Yeah. I thought, because it was raining, but you didn't hear the audio of the rain when she opened the window and looked out. That's why I thought she was still experiencing the memory. But, okay, so other stuff in this movie that I was frantically trying to predict and puzzle out while I was watching it. It's so interesting how this movie is so quiet and so slow, but your brain is just spinning out of control if you're really engaging with it, because the archaeology in this movie.
Oh my gosh,
Anthony,
yeah.
oh my god.
I was like, what are the chances that this movie has this? And then I was like, watch, we're gonna cut to like those little 1 foot squares.
Yes.
And then it does. And we sit there for like 4 minutes, and I was like, those are the
I was in
four
heaven.
best
I
minutes.
was in heaven. Just for reference, I majored in archaeology in college, and that was my original career choice and path, and I still am in love with it. I just don't do it because you have to have a doctorate, and I didn't go back to school. So the whole archaeology angle of this movie, she's in the hospital with her sister. That's one of the many threads. And this random woman just introduces herself to her, and they kind of strike up a friendship. And she's like, do you want to come in here and see what I'm working on? Because, I don't know, a woman seems to be waiting around doing nothing, seems nice, let her into your lab. I don't know.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do that, but okay.
Yeah. And then there was like a bench in front of this office.
Because the door doesn't lock, so they have to drag a bench in front of it.
There's so much stuff I missed.
I was paying very close attention, I guess. Or maybe I was reading the subtitles.
Yeah, I like didn't read the subtitles because I was like getting 90% of it, and I was just like, well, I just want to look at the frame. And now I'm like, damn it, I probably missed so much shit.
Yeah, I got a lot, I guess, because of the subtitles. But anyway, so there was these bones that had been found in a tunnel a road being constructed. And like, as you do in archaeology, if there's new construction, you have to see if there's any cultural artifacts there. You don't want to just dig up and bash through, with power tools through maybe a significant burial site. So there's always archaeologists. Every construction site you ever see, every road that's ever being built, there's always archaeologists.
Really?
Yes.
And are those...
It's called cultural resource management.
Wow.
Yeah.
And are those people paid by the people
Usually by
building?
the government, or they're a private contracted CRM, cultural resource management company, that's paid to come by the construction company, I guess. But some places it's illegal to not, like in America, you have to check.
Yeah, before you build anything.
Yeah,
So how do you get into one of those jobs?
Oh, you just apply.
So that's like so there's like a company that has archaeologists that do that just for whenever someone's building something new.
Yeah.
And you could be like on a squad or a team.
Yeah, no, the story about CRM is that they all marry each other and they don't have any other friends because they travel all over the country and they never do anything but that. And they have no home address. a lot of them live in RVs and a P.O. box in their mother's hometown, and they just travel constantly wherever the next construction site is, which is why I chose not to do it, because I wanted to have a home.
But there's no like part-time, like volunteer?
Yeah, no.
You can't just do it. That's
I could do it for a summer, maybe. I could find out. But yeah, but they travel wherever the next site is. You don't really have a permanent address, as far as I understand.
They should have like a kind of like in the military, they have like the National Guard and the reserves that like get activated, and then they have like a volunteer list. Like, what if they just had like a volunteer list and like, hey, from this month to this month, we're gonna do this dig. All the volunteers can volunteer, and then we'll pick up the married people in parties.
But anyway, it's a super interesting job. But anyway, so here it was happening in this movie where they're building a tunnel under the Andes, and they find these bones, and one of them had that big hole in the side of its head. And my understanding of when you find skulls with holes in it, that's like a way that ancient people tried to deal with migraines and other severe headaches, was drill a hole, like release the pressure that way. But of course they made it ethereal and sound mysterious to release bad spirits, Okay, sure, bad spirits. That poor girl had a migraine.
Yeah. She was having a bad day.
Yeah, she was having a bad day. But yeah, but so I'm sitting there thinking about those bones that we get a really close look at, and there's this new site being discovered, and I'm like, what if Tilda and Hernan are those people, are those skeletons reincarnated? Because remember how they grabbed the side of their head?
Oh, yeah.
So that was like the little outlet, the little connection. Or maybe the hole wasn't drilled. Maybe their alien species has a hole there. And maybe that's why she suddenly awoke and started hearing the sound, was because her bones were uncovered.
Oh, like maybe that was her first shell or something.
Yeah. And the way she grabbed the side of her head when she was touching his arm and remembering the sound of the ship. And then Hernan, when he was twitching at the very end, he grabbed the side of his head and calmed down. And that skull from the dig site had a hole in its head.
And then when she said the only thing, what did she say? She said something about all I can remember is when I was a child.
Yeah.
And then the body that they found was a young girl.
Yeah. And then also another piece that had my brain just racing was the dinner scene with the sister and the brother-in-law, where she's talking about this uncontacted tribe that she's trying to study.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think her sister, who didn't really seem like her sister, are they stepsisters? Like, what was the relationship there? Whatever.
I thought Toto was with that other guy. Yeah. Because, like, I thought they kissed under the rain, but they were doing, like, the face kissing.
Yeah, that they do.
This was obviously pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Or I'm calling somebody.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of food sharing and finger licking. And I was like, oh my God.
It's all so disturbing in a post-COVID world. But, and some cultures are just cheek kissers, and that's Colombia, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, that should have been my cue that it wasn't Mexico.
Yeah.
So I was like, I've never seen that.
Yeah. But yeah, she's talking about this uncontacted tribe, and he's concerned that the reason she keeps getting sick and having to go to the hospital, which is a vague thread in this movie, that her sister is sick and that's why Tilda's here at the hospital taking care of her sister, is that the elders of the tribe are doing some kind of spell on her. And so my theory after that conversation at dinner was, okay, this uncontactable tribe is trying to curse the sister, but they missed and hit Tilda Swinton. And so that's what the sound is the tribe trying to warn her off, trying to be like, get out of our land.
Yeah.
Don't send anyone else here. Or somehow Tilda Swinton is so sensitive in some kind of way that's different from everyone else, that she's picking up on these messages that the elders of the tribe are sending out and no one else is.
Yeah.
And I also then, when we find out about the dig site, I was like, okay, maybe the bones they found in the tunnel are members of that tribe. And the tribe is angry that their burial site is being disturbed. And so they're sending this curse out into the world that is this ethereal thwomp sound.
Yeah.
And it's haunting and driving crazy Tilda and maybe a bunch of other random sensitive people in the world.
God. I just had to... Jesus. Okay, so imagine a movie. I don't even want to say this. I might cut this out. But imagine a movie where it starts and everyone's hearing a sound. And, like, no one in the world knows. And it's, like, this weird phenomenon. And at first it's, like, maybe, like, once a day. And then every day it, like, doubles. So, like, and then it's in the film, too. And, like, whatever character you're... Like, let's say it was Tilda Swinton. And then, like, towards the end of the movie, it's like... Doof, 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 and, like, no one can, like, talk to anybody. Everyone's, like, freaking out. And it's like, what's going on? And then you would have the alien reveal. And it's like aliens were coming back.
Or that some tribe was angry that their burials were being disturbed.
Yeah. And, like, the whole planet is being cursed. And then you could, like, the metaphor would be...
And as soon as you put the bones back or stop digging or end the tunnel, the sound stops.
Oh, and it would be a metaphor for, like how we're destroying the planet.
Yeah.
And then there could be this...
torturing indigenous people.
And like destroying the forest.
Disrespecting them.
Yeah, the oceans. And then, like, maybe there's, like, a scientist that's like, I think we need to put this back. And then, like, we need to stop drilling. We need to stop doing... And then everyone's like, we can't stop that.
Yeah.
But then the sound just keeps getting worse and worse, and everyone's losing their fucking shit.
Yeah.
And then the world... it ends.
And but if you do put the bones back and it all stops. So I was thinking that while watching this movie, because this movie will just feed you little drops of information, and if your imagination can just bang go wild and just start to predict, what if that means that? What if this weird thread that was a bizarre conversation at a dinner table that this husband and wife just seem like they're kind of having an argument.
Yeah, they're very passive aggressive.
Yeah, just like really tensely being like, no. And you're like, what are they arguing about? This bizarre sci-fi fantasy thing of like, I think the tribe that you're studying is cursing you and you need to not go back. And she's like, oh, honey, they are not cursing me. Eat your noodles, you know? Like, you know, it could have been the dog.
Yeah, there was like a weird, like, I thought she was talking about, like, maybe something was going on secretly, because she was like, what about the dog? And she was like, what dog? Like, the dog? What dog? The dog? And then she was like, oh, the dog. And I was like, is that
that conversation when I first walked in where the sister fell asleep mid-sentence. She was talking about a dog.
Oh, okay, so she had fallen asleep.
They had had a conversation about a dog in the hospital.
Okay. I do love how this movie, like, for me, it was all, like, emotional things I was trying to unravel. So, like, I didn't even start theorizing about the, like, sci-fi mystical stuff. Even though the movie, like, now, thinking back, it was definitely, like, feeding it to us in, like, slow drip. I was just thinking, like, emotion, like, all right, what is going to happen to her? And, like, what is her, like, through line? And then, yeah, when we see the alien ship. I was going to ask you, like, what did you think about the actual design of the ship? Because at first I was like, that's a giant mushroom. Or, like, some vegetation.
I really thought it was part of the landscape. And I was... Because they set us up for it perfectly, where they had all these long shots of just static places.
Yeah. It didn't
and you're,
feel
like,
out of place.
looking and looking and looking and looking for, like, what's odd about this shot? What is the filmmaker wanting me to notice in this image? And there's nothing. You can't find anything. It just seems to be buildings. It just seems to be trees. Okay. And then finally, the very end, there was something out of place that we were supposed to notice. There was that leaf looks like it's made of plastic.
Yeah.
And that thing is too round to be naturally occurring.
Yeah.
What is that? And you stare at it, and you stare at it, you stare at it, and you think, okay, I'm just, like, not seeing... Because also there was another leaf that was fanning up and down in a weird way that looked really unnatural. And I was like, okay, those are just weird palm tree leaves that are at an odd angle, and there's something man-made there that I'm just not comprehending. Nope, it's an alien ship, and it slowly rises up out of the jungle. And you're like, finally something was out of place, and all these long, unnerving shots. It was such a relief.
Yeah. Oh, man. It made me think, like, I wonder if you watched this again, if there was more stuff, like, secretly.
I was looking so hard,
like,
man.
after that scene, like, I think towards the end, we see a scene of, or, like, there's multiple scenes of, like, you see the mountains, and then there was, like, a building, and then, like, weird storm clouds. And I was like, all right, there's going to be something in the sky. And I just kept like seeing random birds doing their thing. But oh, God, I love the design of the ship. I loved the like CGI that they used. I loved like the implementation.
And that forest green color.
Like, God. Like, I wish people were better at like designing like CGI things. Like it goes all the way back to like what Spielberg did with like Jurassic Park. Like you understand the limitations of the medium, and I love how in that shot like everything's green. So like it doesn't, even if that like if I swear, like if you were to remove that CGI element and just see it in like a normal landscape, it would feel really out of place. But the fact that they color matched it and then they try to match the texture, but then like it even helped that it looked kind of plasticky because it like clued you in immediately. Because like how you're saying, like you immediately like there's something off about that one, but then you're not sure enough because it's still.
It's like it could just be a weird palm leaf. It could be my eyes. You don't believe it because you've had all these other static shots for 2.5 hours where nothing is wrong.
Yeah,
it just feels like something should be wrong.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love like when CGI feels very like tactile.
Yeah.
Like I know you don't really like this movie, but District 9, I remember back when I watched it, that was one of my favorite parts, was like the designs of the ships, and I loved how the aliens look like weird cockroach mouth kind of like insect things, and they looked very gross and like almost like a mixture of an insect and like lizards or something, like I don't know. But yeah. So all that stuff was awesome.
So with this movie, the tribe, there's no significance to it, maybe.
Oh, yeah. So, well, now I'm thinking, like, maybe the tribe are, like, the same kind of people. Like, what if they're, like, descendants of the aliens, or they are, like, I don't know.
Were they communicating with her? Was it the elders that was sending her this memory? Why is she this random Scottish lady when her nana's...
Yeah, like how did she go to all the... Because he even mentions, like, I don't travel. And at first I was like, I'm thinking what he's saying, like all the memory stuff. But then, like, when it's revealed the alien stuff, I'm like, oh, well, he's an alien. Like, why?
She died as a child, so she reincarnated differently than the other ones, and the others were adults.
Oh, so she was born all the way in Scotland, and it's like trying to go back home.
They're trying to call her home.
Yeah, but it's all subconscious, and maybe that's why she keeps saying, like, I feel like I'm losing my mind.
And what do you make of Hernan laying down on the grass and dying?
That was the weirdest shit ever.
Okay, so he laid down and died.
Yeah, he died. And, like, it was so funny because we see him just lay down for, like, 6 minutes in a super wide shot. And then I'm like, what is going on? Like, stop. And then Tilda's, like, walking over. And it's like, what is Tilda gonna do?
She feels his face. She feels his chest.
And I was like, oh, is he dead? And then, still, like, 3 minutes pass. And then we see a shot of his lifeless body with eyes open. I'm actually, like, super curious how they did that. Like, that either was, like, a very perfect mold. Like, you know, like some kind of plastic mold. But then it looked very good, where I was starting to doubt that it was fully a mold, and then I was like, well, how would you fake that? Like, how would you make him not breathe? I don't know. It confused me, which is awesome, because I'm like, how? Like, I would want to figure out how to do that, because that's always like a stressful thing, I think, is like how you do like a character dying and then someone's like crying on them, and it's like you can't breathe for like 2 minutes or whatever. And then you always see someone, like, you see their, like, heartbeat on their neck or something. Like, it's like those little things that you shouldn't really care about. But then I'm like, oh, my God, look, he's alive. He's not dead.
Yeah, it's an actor.
And then you have another character crying uncontrollably. Yeah. But this looks flawless.
He looked super dead.
Because we looked at it for 8 minutes. And I was like, all right, I get it.
The worst part was we had that long shot of him laying on the ground with his eyes open. And then we cut to something else for a while. And then, to his feet. And then back to his face again for another like 4 or 5 minutes, and I'm like, we saw his face already though. But then another amazing thing about this movie is I was kind of expecting jump scares because I've seen a lot of horror movies, and there was a lot of things where it felt like it was building and tension was building, and I was feeling uncomfortable. And like this was one of those times where his dead body, and I was like, he's gonna like gasp. And it's going to be scary and startling. He's going to jerk back awake. Yeah. But instead, all he did was blink.
Yeah.
And it was really, yeah, not unnerving at all. It was just, and he woke back up.
Yeah.
Like, he was dead, and then he woke back up, and somehow it was not chilling or startling at all.
Yeah.
And that's hard to pull off, too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, God. That was a nice performance, because I was like, yeah, how would I wake up if I died and I woke up? It would be like a very, you know, like almost like a quiet processing. And then he kind of rolls over and he's like, it was all right.
Yeah, he's like, it's fine. Yeah, and they had everything about that conversation was wacko crazy. Like, because she just walks up to him and he just starts telling her random things about the universe and everything.
And this dude has like 2 knives beside him, and I'm like,
and he just offers her mysterious liquid and she just drinks it, and I'm like, get ready for the peyote or whatever you're about to get fed, lady. Like, but
seriously.
Yeah, but she just accepts everything he's saying, and he just accepts her immediately, and they just start bonding in a really weird way. And yeah, she had told the doctor in an earlier scene that she doesn't sleep.
Oh, fuck.
And so she asks him, do you dream? And he said no. And she said, what happens when you sleep? And he said, nothing.
That's why.
And she said, show me.
That's why she was like, show me, because like that's what happens to me.
That's what happens to her. Yeah. And so he's like, okay. And if anyone came up to me and was like, what happens when you sleep? And I said, I don't know, I lay down and I dream. And they'd be like, show me? I'd be like, show you? Like,
I can't even go to sleep at night.
Yeah, it's like,
dude.
You're asking me to lay down on the grass right now and go to sleep for you? Like, get away from me. Like, but he's just like, she says, show me. And he just does. He just lays down and goes to sleep immediately, but dies. He's dead. He's definitely dead. And she's not upset. She, like, checks on him, feels his chest, feels his face, and just sits by him. And I was, like, expecting her to maybe lay down and also do that. But she didn't. She just sat there and waited. And then he blinks and wakes up. And I think he was a little bit mad at her for making him do that. And that's why he rolled with his back to her. Oh, yeah. Because it kind of sucks, probably, to do this.
Well, it's probably like, imagine when you wake up, it kind of seemed, because his blinking was so rapid, it probably feels like your heart starting back up. Yeah. So it probably feels like the impending doom feeling, or like a huge adrenaline rush, like everything's restarting. Yeah. So that must feel like crap. And like maybe he rolled over because maybe sometimes you throw up. Yeah, maybe. You know?
Yeah, but he also just seemed kind of like, you know, I did that huge favor for you, lady. Yeah. Like, that was rough. It's always rough to go through that. And yeah, she knows, because apparently she does the same thing, because she's the same creature as him.
Wow. And that totally went over my head when she's like, I don't sleep. And then that freaking doctor, I was like, God, this is such a like Latin American kind of lady saying like she like pushes the Jesus pamphlets, like, you don't need this,
you don't need pills.
It was like very, like, it's stuff like I've heard from like friends of family that are just like, oh no, you just need to pray and like you'll figure it out or something.
And this is a woman who runs a clinic in this rural town, and she's like, a lot of people in this town hallucinate. So maybe there are others.
Flip. Yeah, because then it cuts to, like, the guards who are patrolling the street. And then they're all just, like, zoning out, looking at the sky.
Yeah, and then at the very, very end, they're there again. Right before her Nana's twitching. There's the 2 guards. So, yeah, there could be all kinds of this kind of person that can touch a rock and see every vibration of every person that's ever touched that rock. And experience the stories of objects. But it was really sweet and really beautiful how he seemed kind of surprised to find her. And he seemed kind of amazed at her abilities, even though he recognized her. The way he said, I'm a hard disk and you're an antenna. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
It was like not romantic, but it felt very like deep connection. Yeah. Like a brother and sister reuniting.
Yeah, and like an astonished, relieved kind of feeling.
And then it's weird because their performances are completely flat.
No, I thought that was so intense. Like, those 2 actors, my gosh, like the way they just sat there, and she puts her hand in his hand and on his arm. And they just stare into each other's eyes for a long time.
Yeah.
And then she starts weeping. Like, can you imagine being him across from Tilda Swinton, like watching her gradually start to weep? And like, we're getting all this sound of what she's experiencing. She's not in the moment. They're not hearing any of that. That is just their performance.
That's what I was thinking.
And he had such a gentle, like, patient look on his face. Like, here we go. She's remembering. Like,
exactly like the previous Hernan.
Yeah.
Like, he was very, like...
Yeah.
just stares into your
He's
eyes.
very peaceful, though. And very, like, he seemed really enraptured by her. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, like, so thinking, like, filmmaking-wise, like, on set, because that's an 8-minute scene. You have all this dialogue. And, like, I know for a fact Tilda's first language isn't Spanish.
Yeah.
And she did a fantastic job speaking Spanish. And it's, like, trying to remember your lines in Spanish with this other actor. You have 8 minutes. You have to do this. And it all seemed perfectly synced. Like, everything seemed mapped out. So it didn't feel like an improv kind of long take. It felt very methodical. And then to do that for that extended amount of time, to like how do you time out, you know, like they would touch each other's hands and then the sounds would start. And then like there's that like weird, like the camera doesn't move, but it feels like the camera moves because your attention's moving because of sounds. Yeah. And like it starts like in the back right corner and we start hearing
the waves.
Yeah, the waves and the water and then like trees and then like you start hearing the like people speaking and it was like the guys who like jumped that one kid and I guess The Rock was like present.
Yeah.
The Rock was just like hanging out like, oh shit. Dude. Yeah. Totally gonna remember that. And then jumps the guy, gets his lunch bag or something. And then like just how it's all circling and you see her like just kind of like angling like slightly around and it was like perfectly in sync.
Yeah.
So like I imagine you would have had to have an audio file with the exact length of time and then the performer had to have known that stretch of time unless you like filmed it and then you just made the music according to the performance, but like it felt so perfect. Like she would move like every time the dunk sound happened.
Yeah, she would flinch.
Yeah, like there was that dinner that we were talking about earlier with the husband and wife, and she's like, and like, oh my god,
that sound hit so many times every time they're talking about the tribe, which is why I thought there was a link to the tribe. This uncontacted tribe that apparently kills people that try to contact them, which there are people like that in the Amazon that really don't want to be interacted with.
That's why she went to that place.
Really?
Yeah, because you know it was after that conversation, but
it was. I thought it was the town where the orchid farm was that she was going and buying the refrigerators for.
Well, that was with the Hernan scene earlier, right?
Yeah. So that's where she was going, was to go to the orchid farm in this small town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think Adaptation's a better orchid movie.
Yeah.
And that movie gave up immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just such minor trivia that the orchids are a thing.
One thing I wanted to say, like at the end, I guess I was going to ask your opinion. We kind of already talked about him like spazzing out or whatever, but I was waiting. I don't think you've seen Under the Skin yet.
No.
But in that movie, I don't want to spoil anything, but in this movie, I was imagining him like grabbing at his head and then like pulling his skin off or something weird.
There's like an alien head with a hole.
Yeah. But that didn't happen.
Green scaly head with a divot.
Yeah. That scene reminded me that there's multiple scenes where a lot of the movie we're hearing what the characters are hearing. Mm-hmm. And then there's some scenes where we see a character hearing something and we don't hear it. What do you think about that? Like that was because like it was like it's very interesting.
I didn't notice that. You think that sometimes they hear something and flinch and we didn't? There's no sound for it for us.
Yeah, you didn't notice that?
No.
Yeah, and then there's like very specific scenes where like Hernan is showing her the sound but with his music, and then she's like has the headphones.
Okay, yeah, that made sense to me. Yeah.
But like in any other movie, you would hear it. You know, like
that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was the other part, like at the end with this guy, and he's obviously hearing something, and we don't hear it. We just hear the natural sounds. Yeah. And then there's other moments where she's kind of like looking around, and now I'm thinking she was probably hearing the sound a lot, or other sounds a lot, because she would like pause at like different paintings, and there was like some paintings that looked like crap, but there was like that one center painting that was like completely beautiful, and I was like, wow.
So she took a picture of that one.
Yeah, and like there was like I think like if you were to rewatch this, you would see her, because like the way she acts when she hears a sound is very specific.
And if he can pick up the memories of objects,
Holy
then maybe she's
shit.
picking up the memories of the painting. She's
and
picking
that's why
up
she's
the audio of the
so
paintings.
into art.
Yeah.
And then that's why she's like, why don't you watch movies? Like, imagine what she feels from movies.
Yeah. He's like, no, I remember everything. It'd probably fuck him up to watch a movie. It'd probably be like taking acid. He would probably have a panic attack. So that's why he can't. He's more sensitive than she is because he was an adult. She was a child.
Oh, she's just a baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, yeah, this movie would be an interesting second watch. There was like some people in there talking about it while I was like waiting for it to start, and they're like, yeah, this is my second time. I'm really excited to see what I pick up. So.
Good thing they didn't spoil anything for you.
Yeah.
That would have been a bitch slap moment.
I think that, the only thing that would have been is the alien thing.
Yeah.
Because if I would have known that, if that would have been spoiled for me, and then this is a 2-hour film that feels like a 10-hour film.
I was going to say it didn't actually feel that long. When it ended, I was like, it's already over? Credits now? Like, because there are so few scenes that you forget how long it's been.
Yeah, there's probably like maybe 20 scenes in the movie, which is like stupid low.
Yeah.
Like there's like 20 scenes in like the first 2 minutes of Jurassic Park or something,
Yeah, there's so few that it didn't feel that long to me.
Yeah.
Because, we don't go that many places.
Yeah.
So it's incredibly long and also felt weirdly short.
Yeah.
Time is broken. This movie breaks time and breaks reality. And you know what I hate about alien shit? Is when they link archaeology and aliens. Like, ooh, the aliens built the pyramids. I just want.
You don't like that?
I want to punch anyone that thinks that.
I think you would hate my post office job because all they talk about is like, I watched the pyramids from Martians.
No. Oh my God. I would just start weeping or ranting. I would like get kicked right out of there. They'd have to call security. I would get so upset. Anyway, I hate that mess. And so I hated the Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. But this somehow linked archaeology and aliens in a way that I thought was super freaking cool. And wow, slow clap for this movie that I didn't rebel and flip a table when they implied that these ancient peoples were aliens, because they didn't say that they like changed society or like why humanity is strong and powerful is because alien tech or whatever bullshit those cheap movies do. No, this is just a random small race that's hidden itself in our society and actually is more primitive than us, potentially lives in the jungle.
Yeah, it's almost like more implied that they just have a connection with these aliens.
Yeah.
It's not really them being aliens. But then, like, I guess, what did you think? Because we kind of covered it, but, like, do you think the little dig site in the, like, square, in the, 1 foot square, like, all that looked accurate? Like, did that look...
Oh, yeah. I was drinking it in.
Okay.
I was the strings around the little... Oh, my gosh. I wanted to go there. And I knew as soon as I saw that tunnel, I was like, we're doing it. You saw me sit up in my chair. I was like, we are at the archaeology site now, you guys. Like,
wow.
Yeah. Oh, it looked perfect. I wanted to do it. I wanted to be there so bad.
Yeah. Gosh, it made me think, like, I kind of wish they would have rewritten, like, I wish Tilda was maybe an archaeologist. Like, I think that would have been really cool.
Who cares about orchids?
Yeah,
why was she an orchid farmer?
And then that would have literally led her to that place, and it would have made sense that subconsciously she is naturally prone to finding old things, and then it would tie in with her touching something and remembering it.
Yeah.
And we could have so many scenes of her touching touching the ground and feeling the vibrations of the bones under it. And maybe she was
finding projectile points in potsherds. And that's what it feels like to do archaeology. You pull that stone tool out of the ground and you hold it in your hand and you think about who held this last.
Yeah.
And it was, thousands of years ago. Who made this? It's that moment of memory and imagination. You don't have to be a superpowered alien to experience that.
And that would have been a cool metaphor to
Yeah.
tie it. Oh, yeah, that's. I think that would have been super, super cool. And then like it would have been cool. Like we did get that one shot that lasted like 8 minutes, but like it would have been super cool to see multiple shots of that. And then like what if, like if we never understand the sound that she can hear the sounds of the past until she meets what's his face.
Yeah.
But like imagine if we had a dig and then she does touch a bone and then we hear like thunderstorms or whatever,
Yeah,
and we're just like, this is just weird experimental art film thing.
Yeah.
But then once we reveal the information, we're like, oh fuck, she was remembering everything, and she wasn't even aware.
And she didn't even understand that was happening. Yeah, she just thought she was going crazy.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. So I guess I want to talk about one more scene, and that's the moment with the dog that's following her down the street.
Yeah.
How to get attacked by a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Have that body language. Like, you're spooked by a dog. Don't, like, circle it and hunch your back and, like, look right at it and, like, slowly move around. Like, she was doing every threatening posture you could possibly do. And I was like, she's about to get attacked by that dog because she is bowing up on it right now. What is going on?
Yeah.
And the dog was just doing its own little thing.
It was not interested in her at all.
Yeah, but she was, like, afraid that it was following her, and she was creeped out by it, and she was acting super creeped out. And that made me very uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then filmmaking wise, like that scene for some reason was one of the scenes that looked like it was very difficult, because I was like, well, I've never worked with animals, but I'm just thinking like that dog had cues, you know, like it was very planned out how they circled around.
Yeah.
And like I could tell they maybe laid scent tracks down for
or
the
there
dog.
was a handler getting its attention right off set, because it would like prick its ears and look right forward, like it's being called by its mama right now.
Yeah, and then the way its tail was almost like, you know, like when a dog's tail is like bent lower, and then if it cues up, it's like obeying and then also like excited and curious. Is that little flick of their tail. So it was like perfectly pointed up, just following.
That was a good boy. Yeah.
I'm gonna get a treat.
Yeah, I was
like, I don't know what's going on with this lady over here.
Yeah, she's not my problem. And then Tilda's acting very afraid of the dog in a really weird way that made me really uncomfortable.
My favorite dog scene was they were at a bench, and then there was just like a golden retriever just passed out. Yeah, just like dead on the ground.
Sleeping, listening to the good poetry.
I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Are there just lots of stray dogs in Colombia? Maybe there are.
Oh, I know in Mexico there's like a shit ton. Like it is stupid. Like there's probably as many dogs as people walking down the street at any given time. In like a pueblo, and like and that was really cool how there was even like that big bustling scene. I think it was like right after the refrigerator. There was like a dog in broad daylight just walking down.
Yeah, just cruising. Yeah.
And I love how all the dogs are just unaware. You know, they're not, like, no one's looking at the dog, and the dog isn't looking at anyone. Like, it has a little mission to go to its spot. It's doing its own thing, yeah. And I'm like, damn, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I also liked how no one, like, looked at Tilda. Like, who is this lady or something?
Yeah.
And I don't know if they told them to do that or what, but...
Yeah, I was wondering how many of the people were extras and how many were just people on that street.
Yeah.
I always wonder that when I see big crowds of people in movies, though. Yeah, so I was wanting to ask you, did this make you really want to go to Colombia? Were you just like, I'm there, oh my god, the whole time?
Yeah, that was my favorite part, was like seeing like all the weird streets, all the weird architecture, and like it was giving me like flashbacks to like when I was in Mexico, like when I was young, like a lot of the buildings looked the same, like the way the downtown area, how it was like really loud and there was always people, and there's just like a weird, like I've never been to like a huge... Well, I guess I've been to like San Francisco and stuff, but like in America, like big cities feel very like there's a culture that's, I guess I haven't been to New York, which maybe that would be different. I've been to Chicago, but like there's something like where everyone feels like they're all dressing the same. Like there's like a very cohesive look to people.
Yeah.
Where like I remember in Mexico, there'd be like, you know, your homeless person or like a very poor person, you're like labor worker, and then you would have like a business dude, like office person, but like it was just like a weird array of like outfits and like people's mannerisms and stuff. And like in that one long tracking shot, like there was just all kinds of different like Colombian people, like with different lifestyles. And I was like, oh, I wonder what they're doing in their life, or like what's that guy? There was one guy who was all like hip with like a buzz cut and stuff, and I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah, and I
So,
was wondering if the filmmaker just went to Colombia and was like, this place is so enchanting and feels so alien and beautiful and different that I have to make a movie about this place. Like,
yeah.
it just
Oh my
seemed a little bit
God.
like a love letter to the place itself.
Yeah. Especially like once we enter the like jungle,
The
like
Andes
the
in the background,
rural.
like just everyone's window just looks out at that, like these
Yeah.
massive. I mean, I've spent time in the Appalachians, but it's nothing like that. Like,
Yeah. This is like the deepest, darkest, but also brightest greenery you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Like it almost feels like like it feels like you're looking at like a Nat Geo. Like this is unreal. And then like the way the mountains and the clouds are like, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what I would do. Like I would just be. I mean, I would be like the movie. Like I would just stand there for 9 minutes,
Yeah, just
and then
look
you'd
at
be
it.
like, "Hey, can you cut now? Like we need to go somewhere else."
Yeah.
That's not even the main mountain.
Yeah.
That's a hill. With
Yeah. 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 This is a beautiful movie.
So did you have any other points you would want to bring up?
I think I've said everything.
Okay. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of Cineverm. We would be grateful and humbled if you could leave us a review or rating with your thoughts or comments on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you could share us with your friends or family, as that helps us in our journey to spread the love of cinema. And we will see you next time.